It's the old Doctor Who show, episode number 78. The Daleks.
Go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine. You couldn't control my mind before, and you certainly can't control it now.
Would you like a jelly, baby?
The TARDIS, when working properly, is capable of many amazing things.
Reverse the polarity of the neutron flows, and the TARDIS will be free of the force field.
But the TARDIS is more than a machine, Stephen. It's like a person, you see.
The resulting reaction is finding. Are you ready?
Welcome back to the old Doctor Who show, your tri-weekly classic Doctor Who review podcast. I mixed it up on that one, Dan.
I liked it.
You know why? Because I was thinking about it, and I always say classic tri-weekly. But the tri-weekly format itself is not classic.
No, that's
and so
not. Well, now it is.
Tends to imply that the tri-weekly part is classic, and not that the fact that we are covering classic Doctor Who, and I don't like to overthink things, so
Clearly.
I switched it up a little bit. How are you, Dan? Our 3 weeks are up.
Our 3 weeks of freedom are up. Now we
out
have
of the
to
box,
do this,
everyone. Just the red lights go on, and we topple out of our little cages.
I like that you decided to mix it up for our second go-round from the beginning again. So
it's like a rebirth.
Everything's brand new. Yeah, they say the 78th time is the hardest one. So
this is a grittier, edgier TODWS.
It's
we
true.
Don't the old Doctor Who show. It's just TODWS.
Oh, right.
TODWS : Nights. Where
it's like when it just became 90210. Nights.
Pit After Dark.
It's true. This one's brought to you by hard alcohol. Well, not actually hard alcohol. This episode is brought to you by Austin East Cider's Blood Orange Cider. On my end,
oh, fancy!
It's nice. What are you imbibing this afternoon?
I'm a big fan of tequila, and so my go-to tequila is the Casamigos Reposado, which I enjoy.
That sounds super fancy.
That's nice.
Is that what you're doing right now? You're just doing shots?
I'm just doing lines of cocaine. Oh, I mean, yes, I'm drinking tequila. That's what I do. I like it neat. I don't put ice in it. It's the way you're supposed to drink it.
I guess so. Oh, that's what you were drinking the other day.
Yeah, it's delicious. You should try it.
Yes, it's delicious. Do we
I
want to
was
talk
going to
about?
say someone should send us some.
No,
but I don't even know if that's legal.
Well, I think it is.
But the reason why I say that is because
FCC
at the top of the show, Dan and I got one of the nicest things from a listener, and I think we have to say something. Hair of the Hound, if you're out there, thank you. For those that don't follow our Twitter or our Instagram, I think I put it on Instagram.
I think it was on both.
Everywhere. We got a very nice letter. So I got anytime there's a package in the P.O. box and you get that slip and it says, package is too big for the box. And then you got to get in that line and it's this anticipation. What's it going to be?
What's in the box?
And then I got a flat envelope and it was from the UK. So already exciting international mail.
International mail, man.
And it said a photo. And a part of me was like, uh-oh. Like, what's this going to be? Because you don't know what you're going to get. Because I think I told you that one time on Twitter, someone DM'd me a picture of just a guy in a diaper. Don't know who. I didn't know the person. And I got that. So it's like I'm always like, if someone's sending me a photo, I'm always a little bit like, huh?
I'm really glad that you got that subscription to Diaper of the Month Club that I signed you up for.
Weirdest thing. It was the weirdest thing. And I think I still have it in my like I didn't, because I'm just so I didn't even want to look at it. Like I don't know who was it a joke? Like was it somebody that thought I would think it's funny, or is it just a creepy dude? Like I don't know. You don't know. So it's like one of those mysteries best left unsolved. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so we get this and they open it up to a super nice letter. It's about the show and they say nice things about you, Dan, and the whole thing was great. And then I see a picture behind it and it's of Ace. Or the actress, whose name I can't remember. Sophie Coppola.
Oh.
No, Sophia Coppola.
Sophia Coppola.
So you see, this picture of Ace, and it's like, well, that was nice. They sent us a picture of Ace. And then a part of me is also like, well, I guess there's a picture of Ace. We're going to have a picture of Ace, right? Not realizing that then I open it up, and it was like this slow motion reveal that in the top left of the picture is a personalized to Dan and Eric or to Eric and Dan. I don't remember exactly.
Doesn't matter. It's the same either way.
Then it said like TODWS or at the old Doctor Who show, and it was signed by her.
Sophie Aldred actually signed it for us.
I was completely blown away, and that was super generous. And Hair of the Hound went up and got the autograph and everything, and I just
so we
super happy.
Contacted you guys on Twitter about that to say thanks, and thank you, Eric, for remembering to do this on the show as well.
And thank me, Eric, for constantly whining for people to send us stuff to P.O. Box 2131. Red Bank, New Jersey 07701, because it's really starting to pay off.
This is we're going to retire on that
Yep,
signed photo.
I planted those seeds in season 1 of the old Doctor Who show, and season 2 is going to be all about reaping the benefits.
Yeah, this is the classic Chekhov's post office box. Mm-hmm. If there's a post office box mentioned in the first act, you're going to get something in the third.
End in our death.
That's right. That's how that goes.
Season 2 cliffhanger.
But so we also got a photo of Hair of the Hound and friends with Sophie getting the thing signed, which was very cool. She does look great after all these years. That was the nicest thing anyone's ever done for me.
Yeah, we will link it up in the show notes or whatever
on the site. You'll see it there. So that was amazing.
Other than that, Dan, you also have some news to announce.
It's not news, but we had been thinking about this for a while. And it's one of those things where you think about it for a while, and it takes it's never going to happen. And then all of a sudden, when it actually happens, it seems too fast. But we decided to adopt a puppy. So we have a puppy. Now we have 2.
Yes, you have 2.
We're back to
What
2.
is it? Are you allowed to say the name of it, or is it?
No. We don't talk about our children just to protect their privacy. Yeah. We think his name is going to be Jackson.
Okay.
Jack. We call him Jack. He came to us with the name Corey.
Corey Haim or Corey Feldman?
It was both. It was Corey's. Actually, his name came to us.
Them the 2 Coreys.
The Coreys.
Yeah. Or just alternate between Haim or Feldman. Feldman, get out of the trash. Haim, you're licking yourself in public. Which could honestly.
I think it probably actually happened.
Yeah,
that was from real life.
The ghost of Corey Haim could come through him.
Yeah.
I'm not saying your dog's haunted.
No, I don't think he is. He's a real sweet dog. Doesn't show any penchant for alleged drug alcohol abuse. No, so that was really nice. We're very happy. And my boyfriend and I were able to compromise, which is not a thing that happens very often. Where he wanted as soon as you can get him puppy, 2 months old, and I said, "There's no way in hell I'm doing that again. I want a year-old." We settled on somewhere in between, and this one became available. 7 or 8 months old. They don't know. 7 or 8 months old beagle. He's adorable. I will have photos on the show page. Actually, I just linked to my Instagram account because that's all it's going to be for the next year.
It's going to be a dog and pony show.
No, we're getting a pony next week.
Dan has a pony outfit that he likes.
I'm not going to tell you if I'm the front end or the back end, though.
Yeah. And on that note, speaking of front end and back end and jamming people into things, let's talk about the Daleks.
Oh boy, that's pretty great, actually. I really like that a lot.
See? It actually works if you think about it long enough.
Holy crap. All right.
You want to hit the button and take us there, unless you have anything else to add. Oh, I'll say one other thing.
Okay.
No, I won't. I'll save it to the end. So just hit that
button. Oh, wow. Now I'm going to listen the whole way through to the end.
Now you're going to have to stick around.
All right, let's hit that button.
Your legs are paralyzed. You will recover shortly, unless you force us to use our weapons again. In that case, the condition will be permanent. You two, help him.
My legs! My legs! I can't use my legs!
This is the Daleks, Dan. This aired in 1963 and 1964.
What?
This is the second story in the first
season. It only felt like it went for a whole entire year. I'm going to hold on.
Went for, save that, I guess, for the end. This is directed, the story is so big, it was directed by 2 people, Christopher Barry and Richard Martin, if you want to be a
Ricky.
jerk about it.
I think he likes Ricky.
It's written by Terry Nation. The TARDIS lands on a strange planet filled with petrified forests and abandoned cities. The Doctor, his introverted granddaughter, a nice lady, and an action dad discovered that they are actually on Skaro, where super laid-back Aryans turn out to be not the ones that are hell-bent on genocide this time. All this plus some classic underground canyon jumping. Dan, what did you think of the 7-parter, The Daleks?
Well, I'll say it was a 7-parter that only felt like 12. Overall, I really like this story a lot. It was it's really fun. So, if you're listening to these in order, you know that we're starting over again from the beginning. So now we're going back to the first Doctor. This is the second serial in the first season. So I don't even remember how the end of Unearthly Child, how that ended and went to this one. But so I forgot because
I feel like the end of that was they were in 1000 BC, whatever it was, 10,000 BC, I don't know, 100,000 BC.
Sure.
And then I think they were supposed to be going home, and something went wrong.
Something went wrong.
The end. And then this one,
yeah,
you see that they're not home.
They're not home, and they had expected to be home, and they're all disappointed at the beginning. You asked me, what do I think of this overall? I thought this was a really great story. We do bemoan the fact that we're going back to these 7-parters. The pacing is very different than it ended up being towards the end of the run or in later years of these stories. So some of that becomes a little bit difficult. This is definitely a story that I think they could have dropped 2 episodes, and it would have been much improved. Just tighten up the story. But overall, all the things that happened, the introduction of the Daleks, the really fleshing out the companions' characters. I want to know more about Susan. I hope we get to see some more. I don't even know what happened.
Got a lot of stuff going on upstairs.
Yes, she does.
Like working through some things. She doesn't a lot of. Well, you keep going because
no, I mean, there's nothing else. We can just talk about it as we go through. So, but overall, I enjoyed it a lot more than the dread I felt going into it would have indicated. But Eric, what did you think of this story?
I like the story. The 7-part nature of it was a little hard, I think. But, it's not designed to be watched over 2 nights, which is how I did it. So it's not the show's fault that I'm cramming these in. But I will say, I liked the way that they created each one of these parts as its sort of a mini sort of story. So the Daleks is the overall title, but each of the different parts have their own title. Yep. And there's episodes in that 7-part run where the Daleks aren't even in it. So you have I like the fact that that whole episode that is underground. So like they split into 2 teams and they're going to invade the city, and there's actually some, strategy to it, which was cool. So one team is going through this horrible swamp area and through the mountains, and another team's going through the city. So you do a whole scene or a whole episode where they're underground. They don't know where they're going. Mm-hmm. They're following all these paths. Nobody on the team, on the Hartnell team, knows how to tie a rope, apparently, because people are being dropped and for whatever. But I like that it felt like, okay, they're going to have fun with this, and it was very tense, and like how they're going to get across this chasm, and the one brother doesn't want to be a part of it, and the other brother's guilting him, and it didn't feel dragged out. Whereas I think you said maybe they could cut 2, but it was like, okay, well they're just going to play with this. This could be a standalone episode almost, and it doesn't really matter what the overall goal is. This episode is about surviving, and how are they going to survive and sort of find their way out. And I felt like that sort of worked as like a little microcosms of adventure stories that happen to have an overall thread to it. Does that make sense?
It does. I'm just surprised by it. This is the one bit of the story that I would cut entirely.
I liked all the underground stuff.
You didn't find it repetitious? Like, it was the same thing over. I just defined repetitious.
The jumping, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Well, you have, okay, from what I remember, you had sort of 2 main things going on. So you had Susan, her and one of the fellas, where he's going to go and they're flirting back and forth and stuff, and he's going to go like, in your place, you'd say ladies first, but I'm going to go first, honey.
Well, that was Barbara.
Oh, right. No,
that was Barbara.
Susan. I mean Barbara.
Yes.
Susan has nothing going on.
Well, at the end, she kind of gives...
Barbara's got some action.
Susan gives a big hug at the end that seemed a little bit more than just a platonic thank you.
She just wants to feel something.
This is true.
She is just completely
dead
ignored
inside.
most of the time. She's always talking and no one's listening, and she needs a friend of some kind.
Let's come back to
Barbara.
that.
Let's talk about Barbara
yes.
and the connection she has.
Yes.
Because I don't know... I can't remember what gets established in an unearthly child in the 10,000 BC or whatever it's called. But Ian and Barbara are an item.
No,
not
they're
an
just
item.
teachers. They're just teachers
They're
at Coal Hill
just
School.
teachers, because she is starved for affection, I feel like, Barbara, and she finds this guy, and they got something going on, and he's like, hey, go in, I'm going to go in here, but blah, 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 just tie me off, lady. And she somehow ties it to a rock, but not really, and then trips over her own feet.
Yep.
And he goes plummeting down to the bottom.
Yeah.
And even after he falls, he's just worried, is she okay?
Right.
Barbara's fine. Maybe she's got a little flask or something that she's working on. But I like, so you have that thing, and then you have later on the big jump across where the brother basically says he doesn't want to do it, and then he does it, and by the way, he jumps, the brother, misses, then Ian's holding on for dear life with the weight pulling him down.
Right.
And then the other guy comes over, and instead of them grabbing the rope and pulling on the rope together to pull the guy up and then getting more people, they just all kind of hang out. He holds Ian, and then the guy suicides himself.
He suicides himself, yeah.
They could have got him up.
I think he got what he deserved. No, you're absolutely right. There's a couple of those moments where it's why were you...
Another thing with him, too, I know we're already
You're right, go for
all
it.
over the place.
Doesn't
but
matter.
that guy tells his brother, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this, man.
Right.
And his brother's like, yeah, but you should. And then there's a rock fall, right?
Yep.
That happens. But before that,
cave-in.
the brother, knocks his brother out, right? And then blames it on the rocks.
No, that was... Yeah, no.
Yes, right?
That's no.
He falls over, and then he's already out, and then the rocks fall, and everyone comes in, and he's like, oh, yeah, he saved my life. He's a hero. It was the rocks that got him. It was like, no, he wanted to leave, and then you violently...
Both things happened. They got into a fight, and
But I don't think the rocks hit him. I think he used that as an excuse.
I don't think he's...
Watch that scene again.
No.
All right.
I will never... I will literally never watch that scene again. No, I thought
That's
so. They got
100% true.
They got into a tussle. He hit his head against the wall or something. Hit his head somehow. He gets knocked over.
Then the rocks fall.
Then the rocks fall, and the brother does get up
and
pushes the aggressor out of the way. I wish we could remember names, but I couldn't be bothered.
Happens. Maybe
he pushes him out of the way.
I don't remember him actually doing it. I feel like he makes up that thing.
He did push him out of the way. That happens, but I don't know that he gets hit while
I gotta
doing
watch it
that.
because I remember
do
it totally different.
I'll just send you.
I don't remember him actually pushing him out of the way, but I remember him saying that to make him more of a hero than he was, because he didn't want to tell them his brother was being a coward, so he made him out to be a hero. And then they learn that he's kind of a coward, and good on Super Dad. Ian, who throws him the rope, the guy completely misses it, and he's just like a dad at a ball game with his son that can't catch a fly ball, and he's like, "Oh no, it's my fault. It was a bad throw. We're gonna get through this, And he, of course, he doesn't, and then he suicides himself, and everyone's like, "He was a hero."
What was great was when Ian throws him the rope, and it just hits the guy in the face.
Right?
It totally just smacks.
It just bounces off like a dumb dog, or a horse.
Yeah.
So
delightful.
I liked those mini things. The 7-parter was a little stressful, but
there was so much to like.
I like the fact that it felt like individual little micro episodes strung together versus a lot of filler. But
sure.
To your point,
I get
you're saying,
I'm
we could have cut that whole canyon thing and had
they could have done
6 parts.
a couple of scenes of that, and maybe a third of it, and it probably would have been better. But that's fine. Doesn't matter. It was.
But I felt like they had to have those scenes to build the love story, which was between Barbara and the guy.
Did they have to have the love story between Barbara?
Barbara needs something, because
she does.
Ian is not.
He's not giving it to her. If you know what I mean.
By the way, their radiation detector sucks, and they got to get that thing fixed. It
Why?
shows in the beginning everything's fine, and literally as soon as they walk away, it's like woo-doo.
Whoop. Yeah, well, right.
Come on.
It's like Schrodinger's radiation. You can't look at it.
Sticking with the non-story pieces.
Yes.
The camera work in this series is amazing. They do a lot of really interesting things with very little, but the way it moves around objects and pulling into zooms and stuff, it was great, and really well. I guess it's like a depth of frame type stuff where you'll have character in the foreground and then some business in the middle ground and then usually some action in the background. It really gave the whole thing a lot of depth.
Yeah, more so than probably their budget would have led you to believe. But I think they did a lot of great work with that, with the camera work. When Susan is running back to the TARDIS to get the medicine for the radiation, she's on her own, and she's running through the forest, and it's kind of like a nightmare scene almost.
Yeah.
And they do a pull-in really tight on her face as she's kind of flailing about and running, but the effect of it, the motion behind her and the way that it's moving, cut with what was clearly a miniature, but going kind of point of view going through the forest, that editing worked really well together. There were a lot of things like that with the camera work that was really well done.
I think if you imagine this whole storyline that Susan is on hallucinogenics and probably in some kind of home somewhere when this thing's going on, because she is all over the place. I'm not a huge fan of Susan. I think let me just say that now. Maybe she's going to improve.
Pretty obvious.
I find her to be hysterical at times, and her character goes all over the place. So at one point, they're captured by the Daleks, right? So they have to do this run because they've all got terrible radiation poisoning. And maybe the radiation poisoning is why Hartnell can't seem to get any lines correct and likes to step over everybody's lines.
That does happen a lot.
That's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
So they're deciding, like, okay, we got to go back to the TARDIS and we got to find medicine, right? And maybe at that point they figured out that someone dropped the medicine. I can't remember when that happens, but they're debating who's going to go. And Ian's like, it's man's work. And Susan's like, no, I can go, right? I know how to use the lock. You're not going to be able to get into the lock.
Yeah,
and then it ends up happening where Susan is going to go, and then she switches from being a person who wants to go to being instantly petrified and almost useless.
Right.
But she's like telling them she wants to do it, and then as soon as she gets the opportunity to do it, she flips the switch, and she's the damsel in distress. I find her a little bit like, what are you? Like, are you the brave one, or are you the person that's got to constantly get rescued?
I mean, I think she yes. I don't think that's necessarily, I don't know how she can cohesively put that all into one character, because I don't think it's necessarily the actor's fault. Again, like I will always come back to like the writing and the directing. I think she's given a lot of different things to do, and how you reconcile each of those things into a character that makes sense is very difficult. I also don't know, because I can't really speculate on this, and I'm guessing they didn't know at the time. How old is Susan? How old is she actually?
I think she's supposed to be in high school.
Yeah, she's supposed to be in high school. Is she? Yes.
And they say she's a kid a couple times,
yes,
I think.
She definitely appears to be that way. The Doctor is an alien, if she's his granddaughter. And again, I have no idea what happens to Susan and how this actually fits into canon of this. But if she's actually his granddaughter and an alien, is she 17? Or does she appear to be an Earthling who's 17? Is she actually much older? Like, I don't know enough about it to know kind of how to take her character. And I think this early in the series, I'm sure I'll be corrected by everyone, that probably wasn't really fully thought out how that works. But anyway, so I'm just taking it as she is a gifted teenager. So she understands how to, some of the things with the when they need to short circuit the devices, the Daleks, visualization devices, and short circuit their static electricity generator and all this. She has some aptitude in science, but then she has some bravery. But when it really comes down to it, like a teenager, she maybe has some bravado. Like I'm not going to give her too much crap for it. I'll let you do that.
It's fine. And I also I like to pretend that she's played by that woman that was in that show Black Books.
You mean Red Shoe Diaries?
Tamsin Gregg or something. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name. You never saw that show Black Books? It was a British show. It's an amazing show. But in the U.S. there was Episodes, which I think was on Showtime. And she was in that. Oh yeah, she was the writer. She was the. Yes.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yes. It's not obviously like if you watch the Daleks and you get tired, you're like, oh, this would be a lot interesting if she was playing Susan.
Huh.
It's fine.
Who else could you put in that role?
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's like a lot of weird things too in this story that are kind of odd choices. Like they introduce this weird plot with the Thals in the beginning with that woman. I don't even remember her name. I don't know if they give her name.
I'm not
with
sure
her
they
and
do.
the guy and like
Yeah, they do.
You know, there's some jealousy, or they set up like this love triangle, but that doesn't ever go anywhere. Mm-mm. And the women Thals there's several scenes where like a woman will walk up there. I think at one point a woman walks up and the guy just goes, "I can't talk to you right now," and she like turns around and just walks the other way.
It is
even get a line.
horribly
It's
misogynistic.
just this weird. Yeah, it's like whatever their society. They got cool jackets they like to give to people, but I don't know what to make of the Thals.
So Dione is she was the only female Thal that had anything to do. I took a note at the end whenever they're all saying their tedious goodbyes to everyone. You see several Thal women in the background, and they look like they could be cocktail waitresses at an airport bar.
Yeah, I like how they're all beautiful people. It's like this weird 60s thing. Like if there were silver inflatable pillows, it could be like at Andy Warhol's warehouse or something that you were partying with them.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're all striking, I would say.
Yes. But not
women.
given anything to actually do, except kind of like you're saying with Dione having that love triangle that didn't really go anywhere and just led to a lot of weird, creepy, lewd comments about how she was 4 years ago she was a girl and now she's a woman, and yes, I noticed, and whatever.
Yeah,
it was
very
very uncomfortable.
The Thals in general are creepy, and then they have those dumb headdresses that at certain angles look like backward baseball caps.
Ooh,
like
gross.
at any minute they're going to start singing Nookie, like it had this whole Fred Durst thing going on. And it's like, oh, God. One thing I will say about Susan, because I checked it in my notes, she did win me back a little bit with her eye winking. So do you remember later when they're I think it's in like episode 3 or somewhere in the halfway mark, they're captured. And she feigns.
Oh, yes,
like,
I know.
I don't want to go because
right.
And then she does like this overt wink.
It's huge.
And it's kind of cute. So I can give it to her that.
Okay. Do we want to just hit like from the? Do you want to talk more general things, or do you want to?
Do you want to talk about how William Hartnell said anti-radiation gloves, and everyone on set was looking at him like he was a complete lunatic, and then about 10 seconds go by, and then he goes drugs. And then
I didn't notice that.
I even rewound it, and it's in like the closed captioning as well. Yeah, so he's supposed to say anti-radiation drugs.
Yes,
and he says gloves.
That's
he
fantastic.
Goes, we have to go back and get the anti-radiation gloves. Beat drugs.
Oh, he's
a hot mess.
That's delightful.
And this is only the second story.
He
gets so many lines wrong. He's always on top of people when they're talking, like not physically, but on top of their lines.
Hello,
you boy.
No, I did not know that, but I love it. That's fantastic. Yeah. So what did you think of? Since we're going all the way back to the beginning, this is the second serial with this first Doctor. How does his characterization of the Doctor align with the way that you remember him? And now that we've seen all of the Doctors, how does he fit in? Does your opinion of him at all change, or is it informed by what we've seen?
The only other memory that I have or experience I have with Hartnell is the first story that we did.
Yeah,
the Unearthly Child and Aztecs.
We did Aztecs first, so we did 2 stories. Yes,
so I have those 2.
Yep.
And this one lines up with how I kind of remember him there. He doesn't line up at all sort of with how I envision the Doctor. Like, he's not a nice person.
Yeah.
Per se. Like, he's scheming and he lies to people, and if he wants to do something, he'll make something. He literally sabotages the TARDIS and tells them something's broken that's not.
Right.
And everyone's okay with that. Like, he's kind of a lunatic.
The way that he even sabotages it, though, I mean, obviously it's for the camera so that you can really see what's happening, but like, he should just be look over there.
We need more mercury.
Oh, it was ridiculous going underneath the panel and pulling that out. It was nuts. I'm sorry, I just went through the transcript so I could find that moment where the Doctor says it's possible that they may have been anti-radiation gloves. Drugs. I can't be certain, but it does give us a chance.
I like that because everybody on set is like, it's like one of those things where your uncle who had a stroke or somebody said something.
He's going to be fine,
and you just got to give him a minute to correct it before you're like,
don't call attention to it. He's going to be fine. It makes him self-conscious. Yeah, no, I agree. I think that the Doctor was not only was he self-centered and mischievous in that way, but he also gives zero Fs about anyone else, like except for Susan.
He doesn't care.
Except for Susan, he's like, well, you guys can just stay here and die. I want to. Well, first of all, he's like, I don't care what you guys want to do. I want to go see the city, and he gets persuaded to wait until the sun comes up. Just sensible. And then he does the whole sabotage thing, and I guess he does that first. Whenever they decide that they're going to split up and go look for, who are they looking for? They're looking for Barbara at the time. Ian's going to go. No. It's towards the end. Whenever the Thals are coming, it's going to be a trap, and Ian's going to go off on his own and stay there and warn them, which we should come back to because what the. He's going to stay there,
hiding behind the column, and
the entire time, and he could have said anything at any moment.
He waited. Yeah, he waited till someone got killed.
Did he just want to make sure?
What do you think of Ian? Ian's super nice, I guess, and like he means well.
Stepdad sort of way.
I find him to be such a dullard and a bore. Myself. I mean, sometimes it's like, all right, he feels like a dad trying.
Is it the cardigan? Is that what's making you feel that way?
I don't know.
Maybe it's
something
the
about the character. I get a little bored with him. Barbara, I can hang out with. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too hard. I'll give him more time.
Yeah, I thought he had a lot to do in this story, though.
He had a lot to do. That's the other thing I want to talk to you about at the end. But I guess we can talk now.
Well, I was in the middle of a point, but that's cool.
Well,
I'm just kidding.
No,
finish the point. Totally kidding. None of this means anything. It doesn't matter. You were going to say.
What I was going to say is, like, it's interesting to look at these early Doctor Who stories because the Doctor is not anywhere near the main character, really. I mean, he's part of it.
Yes.
But he spends so much time a prisoner of the Daleks in the city standing next to Susan. And it's really Super Dad, Ian, who's really leading the chart. Like, he's driving the story. He's the one with the plans. He's the one that's the hero and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The Doctor is sort of, just this guy on the side. He's like a secondary character.
Yeah. I think that's true.
So it's kind of interesting to see that.
So all I was saying was that more about the Doctor himself was just that beyond the mischievous self-centeredness, like, it just goes to such an extreme that he seemingly, and I just maybe put emphasis on that because who knows for sure, but he seemingly doesn't care about these passengers who he didn't want to bring along anyway. It was just happenstance that they got, trapped with him as he's adventuring along, so he doesn't really care. It's really uncomfortable. He does have obvious affection for Susan, which is at least some redeeming quality. She says something to him about, I'm sorry that, I was a little flighty or something before, and he smiles at her, pats her on the shoulder, and that seemed genuine. And he said something to the effect that her opinion of him actually really matters. So there's at least that part of it, but he doesn't care about anyone else.
That's
really weird.
What if he kidnapped Susan and convinced her that they're related?
Aww.
But it's so good.
So he's keeping her on psychedelic drugs.
Right. He's keeping her hopped up on anti-radiation gloves. But anyway,
not great.
So that's all fine.
I mean,
another thing about Barbara, who I like. So
Barbara's
got
Barbara.
her thing. Barbara's got her thing on the side, right? Mama likes the thing that's going on with this thing. Yeah. And I like the one scene when they're camping together. And she wakes up and she's like, her back hurts or whatever. And she goes, I could sure go for a feather pillow and a Sprint mattress or a something mattress. A fern mattress.
Yeah, sure.
Spring mattress. That's what it is. Spring mattress. And her boy toy just sort of stares at her and smiles. But he has no idea what these words mean. But he's just so happy that she's just talking to him. He's like, yeah. It's like, you have no idea what a feather pillow or a spring mattress is.
They don't pay attention to that in this story at all. No.
Because you're right. You're right, because they also reference things that are human, like, I should say ladies first. Like, where does that come from? Yeah, when did that come up in conversation?
No meaning whatsoever. Susan writes out the entire message from the Daleks at their offer that ends up being a ruse to get them get the Thals into the city, writes it in English back to them, and apparently that's fine. I mean, sure, it doesn't really matter, but it's one of those things that is later something that becomes a plot point. The fact that translation can happen, and that people just realize, like, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense that you're using Earth English colloquialisms, and no one should at this point. Whatever, that's fine. So just one of the other things I really like about this in an overall sense, you were talking about the camera work, and I totally agree with that. I thought it was really great. I thought the visual effects and the sound design were strikingly good in the story for something early on. It's probably
minimal. The sound is very minimal. Like there's lots of times where there's no music, like there's no background stuff, and then when it's used, it's effective.
Yeah, I mean, there's a moment when Barbara first gets trapped in the Dalek elevator in the city. It's not even obvious that it is an elevator, but through the sound design, you can tell that that's what's going on, and that's just one of those things that helps tell the story.
Can we talk about the Dalek elevator scene?
Sure.
And this, I think I will support your. They could have cut a lot out of this because there's a lot of things like the Dalek elevator that is just long, like watching the same clip of the elevator going up or the clip of the elevator going down, or sometimes they're walking in real time. You're like, oh, we are going to, if it takes 20 minutes to get there, we're going to be with them for 20 minutes.
Every minute.
But I feel like the elevator in particular, it just kept showing it go up, and then you would see it from the top, and then you would see it from the bottom, and then you would see it from the top, and it's like, we get it. The elevator
moves.
We got it. And we didn't need to see that the second time and the third time. So it was like, oh, Jesus, elevator.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, so that's true, but the actual shots of those elevators, they were miniatures that were being done the way that it was filmed, and it looked convincing. There was the initial shots of the Dalek City, and probably part of it is because of the quality of the broadcast not being very high fidelity, and also the fact that it's black and white. It probably hides a lot of those issues that you might have seen, but it seemed to work really well. It looked convincing. I love the painted backdrops were really effective. Again, it's because the quality in the black and white, it makes it less obvious when it doesn't look good. It seemed to work really, really well.
I mean, I thought the design all around was good. And obviously, this is the iconic Dalek creation, too, that we're seeing for the first time. But what I did read, and I don't do a lot of research, but I did see that Ridley Scott was the original designer on this. So Ridley Scott from Alien and yes, but it was a scheduling conflict or something, and someone else did it. Someone else replaced him, who I should know that person's name because we were giving them props.
Whoa!
But, he would have been the original designer on this.
I wonder if he even got to the point of doing some preliminary sketches of this. That would have been...
Yeah, I mean, well, that would be the designer. I don't know if that necessarily means the sketch artist. I mean, I imagine they would have other artists doing that, but he would be the person probably... overseeing the design of the set.
That's incredible.
That kind of stuff.
That's very cool. Great. I guess the last thing on just the effects, I thought it worked really well, but Ian was just freaking goofy in it. Ian's coming up in the elevator, so it's a composite shot with, I think it was like the Doctor and Susan on one side, or all of them on the sides of the elevator, and cut out in the middle was the Ian in the elevator coming up. And he just has this goofy grin on his face when he comes up and does it. It looks really good, like it's a convincing shot, but he just looks like an idiot when he's doing it.
Some of those scenes are so weird. Like that scene, so it starts off where they come up with this way to kill a Dalek, or to get I guess they kill a Dalek. Where they get the Dalek to come into the room, and then they use a rug or something. I can't remember. They put something under it to stop a cloak to stop because they figure out he's getting static electricity from the floor, and then they rip the Dalek out, and you don't see it, like they kind of put it in a coat or something. It's so weird, and then and it's something weird, and then they shove Ian in it, right? And then there's this scene where he can't get it to function, and he's like, "Oh, just drag it behind me," or like, "Just drag me along," and someone's like, "Won't they think it's weird?" And then he's just like, "No." And then they take him through the hallway.
They're real dummies, these guys.
This is when Susan does her wink thing, because another Dalek's like, "Where are you taking him?" And then they go to the elevator room, and they close the door, and they can't get Ian out of the thing.
Right.
And then they abandon him to die.
Right.
And then they take the 15-minute elevator ride up, and then the elevator, you get to see it come back down. And then somehow, in that time, Ian escapes, and then gets in the elevator, and then they just wait for the elevator, and then Ian comes up, and it's like, what? Why is this taking so long?
What was this 20-minute
We
slow
literally had
escape?
like the whole thing was, I guess Ian's dead. No, he's not. You just have to wait for the elevator to go up and back down. And
Did you not feel the tension the entire time
that's
building?
when I was feeling
Woo!
the true weight of this story, and I was like, please, God, I hope we don't have a lot of these 7-parters. And we only have one other 7-parter.
I think we have another one that's longer.
We have a
than
10-parter, but
Yeah.
I broke it into 2 parts, so at least it's going to be 5 and 5.
You're God. Yeah.
But
So
yeah,
what did
that
you
was
think?
Just like, oh God.
I did not see it coming. Okay, so this is also the I've heard of the way to defeat a Dalek is putting mud on its eye stalk thing. Like that's funny. And then knew who
Don't
they do the
throw
thing.
a shoe at a Dalek at one point.
Oh no, that shoe was Susan's shoe that was covered in mud.
Okay. I
don't
feel
think
like
they show
there's some shoe throwing. It was like a George Bush moment.
Yeah, it's a huge insult in the Dalek community. They take the mud and they put it on the eye stalk, so that's funny. And then in New Who they do the same thing with paint, and the Daleks can melt it and whatever. Anyway, but that was kind of nice. The whole static electricity thing, that was interesting. You could see how they were going to make that work, but I did never in a million years would have assumed that they would have shoved Ian into a Dalek
No.
machine.
That would even fit.
There's no way that he did say it's a little cramped on the legs.
Poor dumb Ian.
Poor dumb Ian. But he couldn't get the controls to work, but he could make the voice work and could see the video of what's going on.
Yeah, and somehow that all functions. And
that
he
was
could
fine.
talk through the voice box. And
then
that
eventually
is
he
happening.
could get it to operate. He could operate it to make it roll on its own. So he
What
figured
was
it out.
interesting about that whole thing was talking through and then sounding like a Dalek. Like they're purposely making their voice sound that way.
Right.
Right? Like it's not that...
It's all...
They're not talking in pulses and then it's
all
some weird
affected.
pulse to speech. It's
just cool.
It makes you sound like a Dalek because they like that sort of thing.
I didn't think of that. That's nuts.
Speaking of sort of the story part of this, if we want
Yes.
to call this that, what did you think of the idea that sort of you have these 2 people at war,
Yeah.
and one branch of humanity or whatever they're called in this world, the Thals,
Yeah.
start off as warriors and then become super pacifists, almost to a
Right.
fault. And like
Yep.
the messaging behind this is also kind of
A little weird. Yeah.
and then you have the other group who are called dolls, although in Genesis of the Daleks, they are something else. I don't remember what they're called.
I forget.
They're not dolls. So
Right.
I think maybe that's a retcon thing or something that happened. But they become addicted, or they can only survive on radiation. And
Right.
the anti-radiation is poison, because they have that interesting scene where the Daleks torture them, where they experiment on their own kind, and they're
Yes.
watching the videos, and they're like, Group 1 is dead, Group 2. And there's that scene when they give them the dose. It's almost like a sexual thing. It's like they start like moaning. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I didn't take it in that way, but
It's
sure.
like a weird freak out, though. It's like very
Yes.
60s, like with the camera work and everything.
Yes.
It's like an acid trip, but then
And the
there's
one
also,
Dalek
like,
is just like spinning around in circles,
Yes.
making sounds. Yeah.
It's like this
It was great.
ecstasy thing where
Yes.
whatever it's going. Or maybe I was on ecstasy.
I think you're right.
watching this. But what does that sort of make sense to you?
Okay.
Like, they
No,
don't remember
but-
each other, like, and these people have been on the planet looking for food, and they're not aware that the Daleks are in the city, or if they are, they don't know what they've become. Like it
Right.
felt like it was almost like they were in another world completely. Like they have never crossed paths. The Daleks seem to be well aware of the Thals.
Yes.
They've got like those cameras everywhere.
They got sensors, right?
They're watching it, but the Thals are like really dumb people. Like they seem like they're completely disconnected.
Yeah.
Did that make sense?
So no, but
Okay,
the
fair
doctor the doctor does talk about how when he sees they're carrying around their history in these reel-to-reel tapes and the
They're
photos
just
they have,
dragging the history around.
just carrying it around with them, and they have images of the first Thal and the first doll, and how they have changed, and the dolls were philosophers and became and scientists or whatever,
Right.
and became as you said. The doctor says something about how after the neutron bomb war, there was all this mutation, and that the Thals mutated, and it came full circle.
Yes, they came
and they
full circle, and
mutated
the other
back.
one hadn't,
And
or
the other one
something, right?
hadn't
Like the
hadn't
dolls
mutated
hadn't.
the whole way. not that that's a thing that makes any sense. That you keep...
Like the Thals at a halfway point were Dalek-like and then became human again,
right? Or something. That doesn't make.
And it's only, why are they so separate?
And it's only 500 years. It's not that long for that extent of mutation to happen and then reverse into some Aryan godlike race. I don't know. That's fine.
Speaking of the Aryan gods, though,
yes,
I did like the sort of the flip of having these Aryan types being the ones that are hunted because they're ugly or because they're impure or whatever. I forget what the Daleks refer to.
That they're mutated, right?
Yeah, that they're the ones that are the beautiful Aryans are the target of the Daleks' hatred.
Right.
That was interesting.
But then since the Daleks hadn't mutated full circle or whatever reason, so they've adapted somehow to the radiation, even though it's presumably their conveyances they're in are the things that's protecting them from the radiation, which doesn't make any sense. I don't know. And then they can't leave the city because it operates on static electricity, and they just don't have roads that go out that far.
I guess they just get rid of that idea that they have to be on metal.
Right, they do later.
All the Dalek stories we've seen, they're literally going down a road or wherever.
Yeah. So that does change later. But yes, yeah. They were just bumper cars before.
I like the scene when Barbara and her...
you just like any scene with Barbara?
Yep, Barbara and that guy, and they're wearing their Mortal Kombat gear. But they talk about the lake, right? He tells that story, and it's like a little... it's kind of nice.
Full of mutations.
Story, and we're going to end up in the swamp.
Of course.
They say the swamp, and then they do a zoom on a mountain. Did that seem odd to you?
Well, it was the mountains were on one part of it. The swamp was on the other side. So there was natural fortification around the city.
Yeah, but the scene is all about the swamp.
Right.
And Barbara says he's like, "Oh, this is too morbid. I shouldn't be talking about this." She's like, "No, I'm fine as long as we're far away from there." Cut to
mountains.
Her POV push on a mountain.
Right.
It's like, shouldn't you be pushing on the swamp or the
guess.
water? Because I think there was like water at the base, but it felt like a mismatch with the editing and what they're talking about.
So other than that, the entire story was perfect, is what you're saying? That was thing.
I don't love this story. And maybe that's a bad thing to say. Like, I would not put
It is a bad thing.
I think I like the Aztecs more than I like this one. From what I remember the Aztecs.
Yeah, I remember not liking the Aztecs very much.
I mean, the Daleks are cool, and this is the first time we see them, and it's always fun.
Yeah. And to see how much of it actually carries through.
But also other parts of this I didn't love. I don't know, man. Barbara had one job. Tie the freaking rope around the rock, and she can't do it.
She couldn't do it.
And they keep making these people tie them off, and they can't get it right. Like, even with Ian's tied, and the guy jumps and misses.
Right.
There's like a shot where you see rope, and then the rope falls.
Yeah.
But he's still tied.
It was tied around him. Like, that should have just dragged him right off. And he was hanging out with his fingernails onto the. When Ian does the first jump, and he's going to do a running jump, and he takes 20 minutes to get up the courage to do it, and he jumps and he just like lands against the wall in that way. Like, he is a really fit science teacher.
He is fit, and he also likes to. I like the positive reinforcement. Like, everyone goes, he's like, "You did a pretty good job. You should have went first. You're much better at this.
You're so much better. Oh my goodness!
It was my fault. I threw it wrong, but you're going to get this. Your brother's
he's a teacher.
Dead now.
Poor guy. I mean, is there anything? I'm trying to think. The first time we see the Daleks fire a laser, it's only a paralyzing beam. That was kind of cool. That their inverted black and white to black shots was kind of interesting. I'm trying to see if there's anything like significant else that happens.
I'll say one other thing that's interesting about this too is the Doctor. I mean, this is the second story, so they're establishing what the Doctor is and who the Doctor is.
Right.
But he doesn't know everything, which is kind of interesting. So I liked how excited he was with the Thals when he gets their maps.
Yes.
And he's got the maps lying out, and he's trying to figure out the universe. Like, this is Skaro, which is a huge, obviously, in current Who.
Yes.
He knows everything about them. There's a time where there's all this history, but now he doesn't even know this area of the galaxy or the universe or whatever we're talking about. So I like how excited he is. Like, that's an interesting character trait for him, that he is so into knowledge and learning new things. He doesn't care who dies between him and figuring it out. So
all he cares about is the exploration. That's true. Yeah. That is his overriding character characteristic.
So but I did like that when he's like, he puts two and two together. So she's putting these things, these like, they're like hexagons or something, right? The map.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, well, then, if that's this, and then that could connect to that. And
figure out where they are
exactly.
exactly.
Like, all right. Good job, Hartnell.
So what was your take on the whole inverted Aryan Nazi pacifism versus whatever? Like the obvious allegories that were going on. What was your... Do you have any real take on it at all?
I thought it was like, I guess you got to be a jerk. Or like, it was like, being a pacifist in this, and you think about the state of the world at the time that this is going on, and this is 1964 or whatever, and
yeah,
it's portrayed as if you take that stance, you're going to lose. And it's
if there's nothing you'll fight for,
right,
then you'll lose.
Because it's basically, if you're going to either fight and die, like I think they say that at one point, it's like, is it better to fight and die free, or, be a slave and take it easier?
That's exactly what they said, yeah. He's reading verbatim here.
But it's, it was like, if you don't go to war, or if you don't fight for the right things, then that's
party.
Bad, which could be used to exploit people into fighting wars that shouldn't be fought anyway. So it was a little weird, I thought.
There was one moment when the Daleks give a Nazi salute with their eye stalks, or with their plungers, which was a little on the nose. But what did
you think though of that whole pacifism thing?
No, I felt the same way. It was a little problematic maybe to make that argument, except that it was coming to the point of there has to be something that you will fight for, and just knowing that is in their nature. That, and it always, of course, comes down to fighting for sex was the baseline for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is kind of weird.
Yep, he's not going to do anything until all of a sudden Ian's like, I'm going to take your woman.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, I guess you will fight for something.
Right.
Bros fist bump. And then they tell the women to be quiet.
Tap another keg.
Boy.
Yeah, so there was that. But then there's the I think maybe more interesting question mark where Ian is trying to figure out. Like, there's the argument. There's actually a real argument between or among our heroes here, where Ian can't figure out a way and can't rationalize trying to convince the Thal to help them get back into the city to get their liquid something coupling coolant thing, whatever. The MacGuffin
mercury,
that they
right? Are they looking for? They dropped the
actual device, the MacGuffin that they're looking for,
the mercury,
right? So he can't convince them to do that, because how can he get them to die for, or potentially die, risk their lives for something for them that gives them no value? And Barbara is very much on the other side of that. Needs to argue with them to do it. I found some of that at least more interesting, because it was the first time we had a rift within the companions on this side. Of course, the Doctor was just like, I'm just going to get back in the TARDIS and I'll wait for you guys. But yeah, did you have any feeling around that? Because it actually got kind of heated between them.
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
didn't
I
really
guess
register.
So. Yeah, I was fine. I mean, I like the fact that they were disagreeing on something, but once again, it just felt like everything was Ian's decision. It was like, it's all about Ian.
All about Ian.
It's all about Ian. I don't remember what the granddaughter's position was in that.
She was with Ian, obviously.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Barbara and the Doctor. That kind of got.
But then she got a new coat at the end, and she was like, I got this new coat.
And then she falls over at the end. Just kind of, whatever. Great.
And then you got that nice, at the end, of Barbara and her man, and they get there's some kisses.
There's a moment
going on. So he does a nice little cheek kiss, and then she's like, you know what?
Ooh.
I'm kissing you. And then she leaves. And it's like, why don't you just bring him and kick Ian out?
Come on. Yeah.
Ian.
Making that.
But it was weird, because I wasn't sure about Ian and Barbara, right? So it was like, there's those scenes where her boyfriend and Ian are hanging out, and it's like, your ex and your current one are together,
right?
And how weird that was. And
that adds a whole other layer to it. Maybe there is a whole backstory.
But I guess you're saying they didn't have a relationship.
Not that I know of, but I like it better. I'm going to read it that way now from now on, that they have a torrid affair, and they are no longer. They're just trying to be friends, trying to get past it. Okay, well, I think that's everything.
It's fine. I think we covered it.
We did it. All right. So, hey, tell me, what do we have? What's the plan, Eric? What's the plan
right,
for our
that's what I
stories
was gonna
going
talk about
forward?
So I have updated the round 2, although we're calling it round 2, but it's still just really a continuation. So we've decided to pretty much do everything that was on our list.
Oh,
so this goes out. I got tired of writing the dates in, but the last date that I wrote was February 10th, 2021. And there's still several episodes for us to review after that. So we are going to be switching doctor to doctor to doctor to doctor. So we're going to do Hartnell, which right now it's happening. It just happened. And then we're going to keep going until we loop back again to Hartnell. So we got a Troughton story next, and then we're going to do a Pertwee story, and then we're going to do a Tom Baker story, and then we're going to do a Davison story, and then we're going back to Hartnell.
What?
So the next one that we're doing, so this is the Daleks. The next one we're doing is Enemy of the World. That's a Patrick Troughton story. Also, I think maybe a 6 or 7-parter.
Woo!
That's going to be on July 3rd. So get your fireworks ready, and then we'll do Inferno, which is a Pertwee story. Then Seeds of Doom, which I guess is a Tom Baker story, right? Is it?
Sure, sure.
Is. And then Kinda, which is a Peter Davison story. Kinda. I know. I keep saying. I'm going to say Kinda again and again and again.
It's going to be fine. When we do the story, it's going to be even better.
And then after we do Kinda on September 4th, we're going to do The Edge of Destruction, which is the next story after the Daleks.
Yeah. Cool.
And the reason why we did this is because we're doing a lot of Hartnell stories.
Boy.
And we'd be doing Hartnell
for the rest of our lives.
A year and a half.
At least.
Before we moved on to the next one. So this way there's a doctor for you.
Unfortunately, we've done all of McCoy.
Yeah, so McCoy is done.
Which sucks.
Colin Baker is done. I think we've done all the Colin Bakers we can do. Hey, this is Eric just popping in here to let you know that I've actually added another story, another Colin Baker story. So we're adding in Revelation of the Daleks, Don't Tell Dan.
Maybe it's just because it was the last Doctor that we did, and we did so much of him, and I really enjoyed the relationship between the Doctor and Ace, that now of the classic Doctors, at this moment, McCoy is my favorite.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's strange.
I know. I feel like I would like to see more of that, and we're not going to get it.
We're never going to get it.
We did all the McCann stories, obviously. There was only one.
I've
also added episode 100.
What?
We will be,
what are we doing there?
All the way on September 16th, 2020. So pack a lunch. We're going to be doing Doctor Who and the Daleks, the movie.
What?
Yep. And then again, at the end of our show, just prior to the double suicide, is the Daleks Invasion Earth 2150. The Daleks, it's interesting. So the movie is, they're pretty much all in on the Daleks. I think Doctor Who at this point doesn't even make it into the title. But the Daleks Invasion of Earth, so now we can add Peter Cushing to the
Pantheon
Doctors that we do. And someone on our live show had said that that is considered canon now?
I don't believe it is,
because they never show his face when they do their obligatory, the Doctor's going to die, you got to do it.
Right, see all the past. They show everyone else, but not him. Also, I believe the first Cushing movie that we're doing that features the Daleks is kind of this story, but it's different. Like none of it actually lines up.
It's this story that we just did?
Well, I don't know if it's this per se, but it is similar. I haven't seen it, and I just it kind of came up in what I was reading. But the fact that there is an Ian in this, but Ian's character is very different than what we see in the serials. So,
all right. So
anyway,
whether or not it's in canon, who cares?
Doesn't matter.
But we're doing it. We're doing both movies.
I'm looking forward to some Technicolor fun times.
Yeah, and will there be a round 3? Honestly, climate change will destroy us. If we make it to episode 117, it's going to be on some kind of... We'll be on like one of those doors. I don't know if you'll be Rose or if I'll be Rose, but we're going to be floating in the thing, and one of us is going to sink down like Jack.
Yeah. I think we'll just be dragging each other down. It's going to be fine.
Hard cut to like a picture of one of us naked that was hand drawn in this sweaty car, and
that's great.
So yeah, Titanic.
We didn't really do much of a call out on Twitter for feedback on this story, but we did get a little bit.
Did we get any listener mail either?
Nothing in relation to this. Some people, some kind words about the live show, which was a lot of fun. I'm glad everyone got to do that. That was cool. But we did get one thing from Tom Tarpey saying, I have great reverence for the early episodes and everything they did to make Doctor Who what it became, but I find them very difficult to watch. Looking forward to our review. So yeah, that's kind of where we are. But that's why we're gonna shake it up a little bit and jump through different Doctors as we go. So we'll enjoy it. I think that's it. Eric, anything else from you? Nope.
What?
Okay. So you can follow us on Twitter at TODW Show. Same thing on Instagram. TODWS on Facebook. You can send us an email at theolddoctorwhoshow@gmail.com, and you can check out our show pages, our GIFs, our schedule. Leave comments at theolddoctorwhoshow.com. Yeah, and then I guess until next time, goodbye.
Yeah. Goodbye, everyone. Yeah, please be good to each other.
Yeah.
I don't have anything.
I thought you were going to say about the P.O. Box again, but you already did it once.
No, I already did the P.O. Box 2131. I would not dare say that again.
2131.
New Jersey 07701. I was going to say, if there's something we missed from round 2...
Too effing bad, do your own podcast.
No. We're not adding anymore.
Record your own version of it.
When we're doing Planet of the Spiders.
Oh, boy.
I think we're pretty much covered. I mean, I can't imagine there being too many that are... you have to see that we didn't already.
We're gonna be good. Don't worry about it.
Oh God, make it end. All right.
Bye.
Bye.